This is the Solex Solexity, and you know, it almost sounds like Solex City or something when you put the word together like that. It's a beautiful bike. Kind of resembles the older gas-powered Solex mopeds that they sort of have like a motor or engine up at the front, and they've sort of maintained that style. This is an Italian design here, according to this site. I've heard people talk about Solex being like a French company originally. In any case, it's European, and they've really emphasized style and comfort, and it is a very comfortable bike to ride. It's a little bit heavier. It's about 58 pounds. I just weighed it earlier, but the battery is removable, and it's about 6 pounds. So if you had to move this, you could always slide the battery out and reduce some of the weight that way. You know, and part of the weight comes from this suspension fork. It's pretty basic. There's no lockout, there's no adjustability, but it does have pretty good travel, and it definitely cushions your ride really well. And then there's this nice saddle, just kind of oversized, really cush. I call this like almost like a hybrid saddle, because the nose is long enough and narrow enough that you can pedal this actively, but at the same time there's enough platform here that you can sit and just cruise along. And that works really well because this has twist throttle mode as well as pedal assist, so it's really kind of up to you how you want to ride it. And I like that they've got an adjustable stem, because you can bring the handlebars up and back, and that creates an even more like upright, you know, body position, which reduces strain on your neck and back, and you know, keeps you alert if you're scanning for traffic. You've also got these decent hybrid kind of ergonomic grips. You know, they don't have lockers, which means if you really crank on it, you can twist it and get it kind of misaligned, but it matches really well. And this one's kind of cut in half to make room for the grip shifter, and it matches the saddle. This bike comes in 3 different colors, like a couple of gray options, one with like red accents and one with the kind of brown accents you see here, and then I think white. So that's really cool. This is the Solexity 400. They also have like a 350 and like an X350 and a 500. This is kind of in the middle of the run. It's less than 2,500 bucks US, so it's a pretty good deal in my opinion. It's using more basic drive systems and stuff. But it does step it up, actually, because the motor is a 400 watt geared rear hub mounted design. When a lot of sort of middle of the run electric bikes, they use 350 watt geared motors. So, you know, it's a step up in terms of power. And the battery, this has Sony cells, so that's kind of a name brand, a little bit higher end. They're lithium ion, just like you'd have on a laptop or a phone or something. It's lightweight, it's gonna last a long time if you take care of it. And it offers 36 volts, 11 amp hours, whereas again, sort of the average that I see is 3610, so a little bit larger. It's got a nice built-in power level indicator on it. It does slide out. If we can kind of, just pinching my fingers earlier doing this. There we go, okay. It's a little bit tough. You put your hand in there to slide it out, and then it gets pinched, which is a bummer. So be careful not to end up doing that to your hand. If you can help it. It's about 6 pounds, as I was saying earlier. It's got a little bit of a grip there, but not a super great handle, so try not to drop it, because you know, that would be a real bummer. The charging port, here, I'll just slide this back in. Charging port is right here, and this is the charger, relatively small. It's like 1.5 pounds, 2 amp output, so fairly standard. But it's great that you can bring this along with you, because you could leave the bike in the parking garage, at school or at work or wherever, and then you could take the battery in and help avoid some of the exposure that you might otherwise get from extreme heat and extreme cold, because that's really not great for lithium-ion batteries. Ideally, you would store this in a cool, dry location, and you'd want to kind of top it off every few months if you haven't been riding the bike. Try to keep the capacity between 20 and 80%. When you're at those extremes, when you're at like 100% full, you know, that the battery is full. And if you go down to 0, well, that's also kind of straining it. So again, 20 to 80% if you can. And let's see here. I'm gonna flip this up. This plastic piece is kind of cool. There's a little push spring thing there. It clicks up. It's got a light built in. Now the light isn't integrated, meaning that it's not running off of that main battery. So over time, you're probably gonna have to replace the little, you know, separate cells in there. Same with the front light. It's real nice. You know, it's LED. It's got this, you know, metallic surrounding case thing, and then you take this off to replace the batteries. It adds some weight, but that's part of what gives it this iconic Solex style, and really kind of, I guess, nostalgia to this bike. So got the fenders. They're just plastic, but they do have nice support arms. They really feel solid. They've got the rubber mud flaps. These CST Crucible tires, 26 by 1.75, they're actually Kevlar lined, and you can kind of see that right here, Kevlar. That's going to help reduce flats and punctures and stuff. It makes them tougher, and I really like that, especially when you're riding a heavier bike around the city. You know, it's not fun if you get a flat and you have to walk it home and weighs, you know, a substantial amount, 58 pounds. But most of the time that won't be an issue because of those Kevlar tires. And it's got nice reflective sidewall stripes to give you a little bit more of a visual footprint. Little reflector thing on the side. We got the lights, reflectors here, aluminum alloy platform pedals. Pretty good surface area, so it's gonna feel nice and stiff. Pro Wheel solid cranks. This is the pedal X sensor. If you can see back there, see that gray or kind of a black disc with dots on it? Those are magnets, and this one has 12 magnets. So, you know, those are finer increments, and it makes this more sensitive. When you start pedaling, it responds more quickly. And then when you stop, it also stops quickly. And that's important because you don't want the bike to like feel unpredictable when you're riding. They've also got these nice Tektro levers that activate a motor inhibitor. So at any time, even if you're pedaling and you feel like you need to stop, if you hit those brake levers, it cuts motor power instantly. So that's a really great feature. I like that they've done that. And this Tektro lever pair is actually upgraded. You can see it's got this silver integrated bell. Real loud, you know, and just kind of tucked away. It creates this clean cockpit up front, which I really like. Got trigger shifters over here on the right. Pretty traditional, and they help you navigate through these 9 chain rings in the rear. Okay, so 9 speeds to choose from. Shimano Alivio derailleur. That's, you know, middle of the line right there. That's decent component group. There's really a sense here, for me at least, that this is an upgraded bike. Like, slightly upgraded motor, slightly upgraded battery, upgraded tires. You got the chain guard, you got the fenders, even the disc brakes. Yeah, they're mechanical, but they've even been kind of upgraded. Got a 160 millimeter rotor in the front, right next to that quick release, which is handy if you're transporting the bike or tuning the front tire. The rear does not have quick release, which means you need tools and stuff, and maybe some help from a shop. But it's still, you know, quality setup here, and this is a larger rotor. It looks like 180, maybe even 200 millimeters. It doesn't say on the disc, but that's larger. It's going to give you even more stopping power, and it's kind of untraditional in my experience. A lot of times they have a bigger disc rotor in the front and a smaller one in the rear, and that's maybe for downhill mountain biking and stuff because you have more weight and stuff on the front. This one, I guess they put a larger one in the rear in part because of how it's adapted. They needed to fit the motor and everything, but also, if you think about it, there's a lot of weight in the rear from that 400 watt motor to that 36 volt 11 amp hour battery and the rack. And if you just look at it, it's got this cantilever, really elegant frame design that's really solid. It feels sturdy, and you've got plenty of support for mounting like bags or panniers on this. One of the downsides, however, is it doesn't use traditional sized, you know, circular tubing. So a lot of panniers have clips that hang. They won't work on this. You're gonna have to have a Velcro one or strap or something. But thankfully, the battery is still really well protected. It's kind of surrounded by this metal, these metal plates where the battery screws on. This is the controller that's in here because the battery just kind of connects right there. And then the wires are run through this seat tube. So really cool setup that way. This does have a more traditional sized seat tube. I think it's 27.2. I can double check. I'll put that spec back at the website. And then there's also a quick release here, quick disconnect for the motor. But you'll notice how the motor cable comes out right here, pretty, you know, far outside of the frame near the derailleur. If your bike tips, this can kind of get bent and broken, and that can wreck the motor and really, you know, cost fair amount of labor and parts to get it fixed. So just be careful not to tip this bike. You'll notice that the kickstand is pretty solid. It's mounted on the left, and that way if it does tip, it tips to the other side where there's fewer parts that could be potentially damaged. I have noticed that riding this bike, it feels solid, it feels fluid, but it's not as stiff. And so if you're at the front and you kind of shake the bike back and forth, the frame bends a little bit. And I find that happens a lot with step-through designs like this, especially ones that have a lot of weight in the rear. So kind of as you'd expect, but not a lot of rattling, you know, and not a lot of like jerky feeling when you're pedaling along. It's smooth and very comfortable, surprisingly so. So if I hop up on the bike here, it's real easy to just kind of step through like this. That is the display panel. It is not removable, but it does swivel a little bit, as you can see there. It's a really nice system that they've got because this bar is not circular, so they had to adapt it, and then they even created that swivel point, which, again, attention to detail, really nice. Press the power button, and it comes to life. It says 26, and that's for the wheel size. We've got, I think, 6 different levels of assist, and it's sort of assisting you all the time. Like, there's just the lowest level of assist is just very little, and that's going to use the least amount of power, especially if you put it in eco mode. So there are actually 2 modes that complement assist, and the modes tell the bike how much power should I be putting out, and the assist tells it like how fast should I be going. So that's pretty cool. I could see people owning this and maybe even overlooking that feature, but it's nice to know that if you want to save energy, you can. I'm going to put it up in sport just because, you know, I want to show the bike off. Let's see, we got our battery level indicator, our speedometer over there, and then these arrows up and down for pedal assist. One downside of this display is that you have to like reach over to kind of edit the function that you're in. A lot of bikes have a little ring over here, or, you know, just maybe the display's mounted closer to the grip so you don't have to compromise your steering to mess with it. You know, it's not a huge trade-off considering the price point of this bike, and that you might just set it and forget it. That's cool, but it is a downside. Also, the twist throttle is on the left here instead of on the right, which is what I find most frequently in America. Just with motorcycles and other electric bikes, it's usually over here. They might have been able to fit it with these trigger shifters, but, you know, whatever, it's fine. It's on the left. It doesn't work at standstill. So that's kind of a safety feature. I've seen it on like Bionics kits and some other stuff. You basically have to be going a couple miles per hour before the throttle will work, and I think that's a safety feature, just so no one accidentally twists and has the bike take off on them. So I'm gonna back up here and do a little test ride. I'm gonna kick off and get us up to a couple miles per hour, and then, oh, there it goes. Takes off. Very nice, very smooth. Pretty quiet. You know, it is a geared hub motor, so there's a little bit more noise produced. There's these plastic gears, 3 of them in there, kind of circulating, and that creates a humming noise, but it's not bad. Okay, so I did confirm it's 27.2 diameter on the seat post, and that's interesting because you could always replace that with a thud buster or some other seat post suspension, and it would give you an even cushier feel. But the front fork does work pretty well, you know, for what it is, and I like that it matches. So here we go. I'm going to use the twist throttle, and you can hear the motor. There we go, and I think the top speed is 20 miles per hour. You really feel it. The bike starts to take off. Now I'm going to do pedal assist, and you can kind of see as I pedal and then I stop, watch for the motor and kind of listen, because the motor isn't immediately responsive, but it's pretty good with those 12 magnets. There you go. You could see it kind of, you know, lagging a little bit after I stop pedaling, but that's where these nice Tektro brake levers come in handy, because they cut motor power instantly. I really like it. I like that you can override assist with this bike. I like that it has, you know, 6 levels of assist so that you can decide how fast you really want to go. Again, I was in the highest one, so it uses the battery rapidly, but it gets you going a little bit faster, which is fun. I think that's about it. That's the Solexity from Solex. It's a 400. And, you know, for the full write-up on this with specs and other bike reviews, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And if you get this bike, and you feel like maybe I missed something, or you just want to share your experiences, do a video response. Or, you know, maybe head on over to the forums back at the site and chat it up with people. I'll see you there. Ride safe.